Goeie, this is Crypto Cyber, bring you bits and bytes of crypto. Please subscribe, hit the bell for future notifications, like and share, and please feel free to comment. Okay, so today we're going to have a listen to Simon Dixon. You can go follow him on YouTube as well. With regard to the International Monetary Fund is bullying El Salvador, who wants to loan $1.3 billion. They're bullying him into stating that if he wants to loan this amount from them, he needs to reconsider making Bitcoin a legal tender. So, yeah, this is the first of many to come. The New World Order finally realizing there's power to the people through cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and they're losing out, and now the bullying starts. So it's officially starting now. But listen to Simon. He's got all the financial jargon, and he explains it quite nicely. I can't do it better than him. So let's listen to his explanation on this with a bit of background as well. Quite good, well put out.
Hey YouTube, Simon Dixon here again, and good morning. Today we're going to be talking about the economic hitman at the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the cohorts around there. So this is a phrase that I borrow from John Perkins, who wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman, because he was an economic hitman, and he shares his confessions in that book. Great book if you haven't read it already. So the latest news today is that the International Monetary Fund has issued that in order, essentially, to borrow some money, $1.3 billion for El Salvador, then they need to reconsider making Bitcoin legal tender, because the International Monetary Fund really has got your back. And they're thinking about the people in El Salvador, and they're thinking about what's good for the world, and they're saying that competition in the sovereign debt market or the market for countries to drive...
He's just being very sarcastic there, stating that they've got El Salvador, the people of El Salvador's back.
...themselves out of debt-based slavery and remain sovereign should not be competitive. It should be one organization or group of organizations that are able to issue those loans through the magic of the bond market. So in my book that I wrote over a decade ago, that was the first published book in the world to include Bitcoin, Bank to the Future, Protect Your Future Before Governments Go Bust, I had a whole chapter on the flow of funds and the flow of money between countries that are borrowing from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. A little bit of history. In 1944, after the World Wars, the International Monetary Fund was set up, and there was a big monetary renegotiation that made the dollar, backed by gold, the center of the current financial system. In 1971, President Nixon announced the Nixon shock, where they removed the convertibility of dollars that was negotiated in that. That was removed from being backed by gold, and the IMF as an organization was able to, through the World Bank, issue World Bank bonds in order to help develop countries, and rich and wealthy nations were able to contribute gold to the International Monetary Fund, and then that could be used to collateralize in essentially where members could draw down on these loans. And then the International Monetary Fund got involved in money creation through the creation of their own digital overdraft called special drawing rights, where countries could draw upon these currency that was effectively created out of nothing, and they could get themselves loans when they need to fund infrastructure. And in the book, Bank to the Future, I talked about how the impact that these loans have. And in John Perkins' book on Economic Hitman, he shared the goals of these organizations. The World Bank was an agent of the United States in order to issue dollar-denominated loans. And how do they get those dollar-denominated loans? Well, they fire up some paper that they create out of thin air, and then they create World Bank bonds. And then these bonds are sold through Goldman Sachs and the other investment banks that all the students in the world and the best talents in the world all work their whole life and get in student loans in order to work for these investment banks because they pay more so that they can sell these bonds. And what do? They sell them to the investment institutions, which are the large pension funds and the large pools of money, so that they can take your monthly contribution for your retirement and give you income by paying these loans that are essentially built upon the world's largest regulated debt-based Ponzi scheme. Where do you get the money to buy those bonds from? Well, you borrow it from a bank, and every time a bank issues a loan, it creates new money, and therefore there is more debt than money in the system. And so the game becomes, how do you put as many individuals, companies, and countries in debt so that you can keep the world's largest regulated debt-based Ponzi scheme alive? Well, obviously the innovation was, why lend to lots and lots of people trying to buy their real estate through mortgages? Why lend to larger corporations through the bond market so that they can then buy back their stock and create endowment effects where your pension is worth more because they're borrowing money in order to buy back their stocks when they can borrow them at cheap interest rates, which made sense when interest rates had a free market, but now interest rates are manipulated down to nothing, in fact negative interest rates, so that everybody has to invest in bonds so that they don't leave their money at a bank, because when they leave their money at a bank, they're subject to the counterparty risk and the world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme, which could lead to bail-ins where they take your money in order to capitalize their bank, or they reach out to taxpayers and say, you pay for the money, you pay for it so we can bail out the banks, or they inflate away your savings, forcing you into speculation. And the reason why the debt-based world's largest regulated Ponzi scheme must be protected. And therefore, the International Monetary Fund then goes to El Salvador and say, you want to borrow $1.3 billion? Well, don't allow Bitcoin to be legal tender. Why should they care? Why should they not allow a competition within the markets in order to allow countries to benefit from money that's designed to go up in value rather than the world's largest regulated debt-based Ponzi scheme? Self-interest and self-interest only is my message. So these economic hitmen are paid in order to go along to developing countries and make sure that they get unaffordable loans made that they created through the money creation system, through the bond markets, funded by your pension, so that they can then go out there and make unaffordable loans in dollars. And then what does the people have? They either have to drive an economic growth effect in order to pay these dollars. Some of them use unsustainable central banking, completely devalue their currency, end up in hyperinflation so that they end up having to default on these loans. So then the economic hitman can come in, renegotiate, and say, well, privatize all your infrastructure, privatize your country, and have a tied loan. We'll bail you out. So then they refinance and they say, well, here's some dollars, but you've got to take those dollars, and it's tied to the conditions of the loan. And the conditions of the loan is that you need to invest in infrastructure, and here's the companies, corporations, and companies that you're going to use in order to fund and build this infrastructure. So then the dollars are then tied back into US contractors. The debt is left within the country. It was created out of nothing. They have to pay these dollars. They end up not being able to pay those dollars because the amount of the loan was far unaffordable in the first place, and it was based upon the debt-based Ponzi scheme rather than equity or collateral. And therefore you end up with the money being created at the World Bank, the dollars going back into the US, and you end up with 70% of the world using dollars as reserves, as planned in the 1944 Bretton Woods scheme that was then reneged and completely shafted the world when President Nixon reneged on his agreement and took the United States dollar off the gold standard that really was the pin of them getting the dollar to be the world's largest reserve currency in the first place. The ethics of the system, the flow of money, the money moving through this system, is to be investigated. I tried to do that in my book over a decade ago. You can get a free copy of the book if you don't want to buy it on Amazon, retirementplanb.com/book. And you can understand the flow of funds and why I was recommending individuals, countries, and companies to invest in financial technology that gives them independence so that they can make choices. And here we're not saying, IMF, don't play your economic hitman game. We're saying, give the country a choice. And choice is where countries can make their decisions about what path to go through. So eliminating competition, governments have decided around the world, is not necessarily a good practice. That's why they have monopolies and mergers commissions and all sorts of stuff, but yet doesn't seem to work at the very large game and large level. Why? Because there is a power play at sense here. And Bitcoin is giving that choice. Bitcoin gives people, gives companies, and give countries the ability to own their own money, spend their own money, and have a monetary system that benefits from a fixed supply as the world's first digital hard sound money. And so giving countries that choice is an important thing. Now, fortunately, there is a very brave president in El Salvador, and Bukele has decided to stand up to the bullies. And they have decided to use financial innovation powered by the people, the Bitcoin community, in order to see if there is an alternative. The choice is here right now. Can we raise enough money for El Salvador through a bond that was designed to try and beat inflation, but the coupon is starting to go below inflation because inflation's running riot at the moment, but have a Bitcoin dividend ticker? This is the most interesting time in financial history. This is where one President Bukele could stand up to the bullies. If we can show that the level of pulling power that we have in the equity collateral-based markets versus the debt-based Ponzi schemes, countries can choose. The stakes are high at the moment, community. They can choose to have money based upon debt, or they can have money based upon collateral. Yesterday, I shared a strategy around how I'm thinking about building, a security bucket using Bitcoin as collateral, so that you can protect yourself from even if Bitcoin crashes. This has all been done. The debt markets in Bitcoin are all being based upon digital hard sound money. Collateralized loans is different. There's equity there. It's a growth effect. It's a wealth effect. It's not playing the debt capital markets and having based upon your credit rating and your ability to borrow money that you don't have. This is a wealth effect. This is a shift. This is two forces working against each other. Central bank digital currencies are awesome at giving you stability in paying your expenses, but they suck at maintaining their value, and therefore they drive people into a debt-based Ponzi scheme where there's more debt than money. Therefore, you need a counterforce with your savings, and the two systems can keep each other honest. Bitcoin digital hard sound money and all of the financial innovation that comes from that we at Bank to the Future have been funding for the last decade, thanks to all of our investors. We created the first Bitcoin bond in 2014, and now we get the opportunity to invest in a country proving that there is an alternative. The two systems can coexist. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Fiat currency has its role. Bitcoin has its role. But the stakes are high. And the Bitcoin community, there are soldiers out there that are supporting El Salvador. And I think it's a cause that all of the Bitcoin community and everybody that cares about more competition and freedom, and showing that things can be done differently so that you can actually build your way using digital hard sound money into individual sovereignty, company sovereignty, and country sovereignty. So this is really an important time. This is a moment in financial history that I encourage everybody to stay up to date with. If you believe in the importance of this, I know I talk a whole load of financial jargon spaghetti. I try and break it down into simple language, but here's my commitment to you. Share this video, share this YouTube channel, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell symbol, hit all, and I'll give you play-by-play as one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history all unfolds. It started, it's been a multi-century, leveraging of our financial system that's led us to this moment in history where none of the tools work anymore, so the IMF has to send out their economic hitman to say, you can take our loan, but tied conditions. Don't make Bitcoin legal tender. Are we going to give Bukele that choice? Are we going to give the El Salvador people that choice? Or are we going to take them down a path of destruction that leads to them borrowing those dollars, not having the Bitcoin kicker and the Bitcoin backer, and ending up where they have to negotiate with these tied loans and they lose their sovereignty when President Kelly has a vision that he wants to spread out for the El Salvadorian people and is spreading around the world as he meets presidents in Turkey. This moment, we as a community have to get right. We're going to do it with peace, we're going to do it with love, we're going to do it with unity, and we're going to show that financial innovation based upon digital hard sound money unleashes a wave of innovation that creates jobs around the world, that creates little hubs like Bitcoin City in El Salvador that other countries can use as a model, and we allow the competition. If the Bitcoin community and this community goes down the wrong path, you have competition within the central bank digital currency, fiat-led, artificial intelligence, sovereign, and you have really free markets competing with controlled markets. The stakes are high, community. I'm sorry if I am giving you financial innovation spaghetti, but there's a lot in my head, and I want to make sure that you're on the right side of that change. So always remember, you are alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. A lot of people, a lot of companies, and a lot of countries are going to get hurt, but a lot of people, a lot of companies, and a lot of countries are going to do really, really well, and I want you to be on the right side of that change. Peace.
Well, guys, there you have it. Quite interesting. Follow him, Simon Dixon, on YouTube. So I hope that was informative. There's a link below for my Telegram channel for future news and instant updates. And that's it. Have a great day. Ciao for now. Sabok signing out.